Hey all, welcome back to the Congressional App Challenge Debugged podcast. I'm your host Mehta, and today our episode will be a panel episode that will be hosted by Suhaani, who is on the Debugged podcast team. And what's really special about this panel episode is that not only is it about a really cool topic like robotics, but also all of the guests are members of the Debugged podcast team that are incredibly involved in robotics and are awesome at robotics. So you're learning from the best of the best. And I'll pass it over to Suhaani to talk us through the panel.
Thank you, Mehta. I'm super excited to get started today. So first, I just want to have everyone introduce themselves. Suri, do you want to go ahead and first introduce how you got into CAC and your experiences in robotics?
Thank you, Suhaani. So my name is Suri. I first learned about the Congressional App Challenge when I was around in 7th grade. So I'm a 2021 alumni. I'm really glad about how involved the community is. And I started robotics when I was in around 7th grade as well.
All right. Hi, my name is Aarav. I've been CSU for the past 2 years. I've learned about it freshman year of high school. I've done robotics since I was in 4th grade. So I did a couple years of Lego League, a couple of years of Bot Ball, and I've been on First Tech Challenge since 9th grade.
Hi everyone, my name is Tushar. I did Congressional App Challenge 2 years ago, and that's when I first heard about it. And then I've also been doing robotics since 4th grade. I initially started in First Lego League, and then for the last 2 years, I've been doing First Tech Challenge, similar to Aarav.
Okay, wow. So as we can tell that you guys have been involved in the robotics community for a very long time. So could you guys go ahead and expand a little bit more on how you got involved in robotics or why you joined, even if you joined when you were pretty young? And Aarav, do you want to go ahead and go start with that?
Yeah, I'll start with that. So I initially started in 4th grade when a couple of middle schools set up like an after-school Lego camp. So I would go every like Friday after school, and we would build like these little sumo bots that fought each other. And so we would have like ninja stars and shurikens and a bunch of cool stuff and battle each other. And after that, I kind of got into robotics. So when I got to middle school, I felt like it was what I wanted to do because I got to like, be with all my friends and create a bunch of cool stuff.
Yeah, I'm kind of similar with that. I really had a passion for Legos growing up, especially in elementary school. I would always ask for Legos during Christmas or during my birthday. And then I remember one evening my mom showed me like a Facebook post of a local teacher starting a robotics camp. And in 4th grade, I participated in that robotics camp, and I really enjoyed it because I was able to combine my interest of like building Legos as well as coding, which I was starting to get into, even if it was just block coding. And then the next year after that, which was 5th grade for me, I participated in the first Lego League Challenge, and it was really, really a great experience, and I've been doing it ever since.
I think teachers honestly have a really big involvement with robotics. So I was introduced to robotics because my teacher, who was running the team at my school, she recommended me to join. And then when I got to the meeting, I recognized some familiar faces, but I also met a lot of new people. And then initially, I wanted to stay on the team because I was shown the video for the game that year, and I thought it was really cool. Because when I first joined, I think it was around Fright Frenzy. So it was the game with all the little ducks, and that really, I thought they were really cute. And I thought I was like, initially, I didn't know how they were going to be used in the game. So I thought it was interesting to see how that would play out.
So all of you in one shape or the other sort of mentioned FIRST, and personally, I never even had FIRST at my high school or my middle school. I think the closest FIRST team is like a city group, which meets like downtown, which is 40 minutes for me, so I never really got the chance to get involved. But like, Suri, you mentioned like a specific challenge. Could you talk about like what about FIRST attracted you, and like what is the system actually like, so our listeners can understand what the process is?
Yeah, and if Arav and Tushar, if you guys want to join me in explaining, I might not be the best, but every year around September, I know at least for the first challenge, first tech challenge, first releases a game video which basically explains the game, and all the components that are going to be used that season. So then each season there's a new different theme. I know the year I joined, it was about moving fright materials and stuff. I think this year it's like water and ocean, so I thought that's really cool. But There's three different levels to FIRST. So there's the first Lego League, which Tushar and Aarav mentioned. I think that's mostly geared towards elementary and early middle school. The first Tech Challenge, which it seems most of us have experience in, is geared towards middle school and high school. And then the third level is FIRST Robotics Competition. So that's mainly for high schoolers.
Yeah, I would also like to add the thing that really like differentiates First from a lot of other robotics competitions and why I love to participate it is the sky is the limit. So in a lot of other robotics competitions, they kind of put limitations on you on like how many materials you can use. You can't like 3D print anything. But for First, like every single year, there's different teams across my state. I live in Pennsylvania, and there's so many amazing robots. And I think competition just really shows how every person is so creative with the way they build their robot. And that's just, like the main reason why I like First so much is just because like when you go to other robotics competitions, you might see a lot of similar robots, but every single competition you go to for any first event, the robots will be so different, and that's what makes the competition great because you don't know how each robot will perform. So I just that would probably be my favorite part about First itself.
I'll quickly add on. I think that for me, I like most about First is the fact that it's not only robots, right? Running a first team is really tough. It's especially from like a fundraising standpoint. It's hard to get all the money, get sponsors, and even at the actual competitions, it's not just about having a robot that works. It's about being able to present your robot, talk about your robot to judges, doing things to help your community, spreading your love for robotics, and so it's kind of a competition that talks about so many different aspects, and you get to grow in so many different ways as a person and I guess explore so many different fields.
Piggybacking off of Arab, I would like to add another thing I really like about FIRST. It's its community. A big thing is gracious professionalism. I think it's a term coined by FIRST. It basically focuses on, outside of the technical aspects of the competition, is cooperation and a huge character. So I think that with having gracious professionalism, it really fosters a really loving and nurturing community. And I never feel scared whenever approaching someone at competitions because everyone's really supportive and nice.
And so I guess Tushar mentioned some like limitations that other robotics competitions put down and how creative people get. So, Tushar, you can go ahead and start and talk about like, could you expand on what types of robots you've made? Like, what are some examples? What materials have you used? And then Arav, separately, if you do feel like answering, I'm also curious on, you mentioned that it's sort of like running the team itself is very complicated. If you all, any of you could like explain on what are your like team roles, what do you guys focus on, or is it more of like everybody does a little bit of everything?
Yeah, so one of the main kind of differences about our robot last year was something called a swerve drive. So a swerve drive is basically where your wheels can, or like your robot can go in all directions without having to turn the wheels. So it can strafe, it can go forward and backward. And I know for first robotics competition for FRC, that's like one of the, I think that's what all teams use as their drivetrain. But for FTC, a lot of teams are using mechanism wheels, which are just like normal wheels that go like forward. They can also strafe, but the acceleration is very delayed because the wheels slip. So I think that was definitely a key aspect about our robot last year. And then in the previous year, there was the theme of that year was I don't remember like the name or anything, but basically for first tech challenge, what we had to do was pick up like certain cones and then place them on poles. And our team in particular won the design award at I think like, States for that because we had a very innovative way of picking up those cones without dropping them. And that's all thanks to our design leader. She is great. She always comes up with different ideas that kind of get our robot ahead aesthetically as well as in its performance, and that's like a big aspect of our success. So I think like our mechanism to pick up those cones was definitely innovative, as well as our swerve drive, because as of right now, only like 5% of the teams in FTC are using swerve drives because of how hard it is to put that into CAD. So those are just a little bit of the design aspects of my team's robots over the last 2 years.
I'll talk a little bit about like I guess my team's robots, and I'll also go into like I guess the business finance side of things. So my robot, as part of my team, we do a lot of custom design, custom manufacturing. So pretty much every robot we produce has a lot of custom printed like 3D parts. We custom manufacture carbon fiber plates in house, and so that's something a lot of our team members learn how to actually use a CNC, how to actually CAD and use a 3D printer. And so I guess I'll just highlight one robot for my team is that during the same season, the cone season, Power Play, we focused on building an expanding chassis that could reach across the entire field. And so we had a turret that could go up to 7 feet, and the entire robot could, I guess, extend out to about 10 feet. And basically, it was just a monstrosity. It was a pain to get working. It never really worked, but it was really good learning experience, and that's kind of what FIRST is about. About like the finances side of things, right? There are teams that spend a lot of money. There's teams that are also on a very low budget, right? And I guess it's just about being able to reach out to people, present your team, show what you're going to do with the money, show that you care about robotics and that you're going to put the money to good use. But there's definitely teams that spend upwards of 10 grand a year, and it's very hard to continually have to find sponsors, especially when the amount of sponsors are so limited compared to the amount of teams there are.
I would also like to add on to team structure. So I know a lot of teams follow kind of like a structure. So there are sub teams such as design, building, programming, and business. And then there's usually like captains for each sub team. And then usually captains will organize and make sure that everything's going right and that they're all following the same kind of schedule with other teams. And I think it's really helpful because it kind of helps us learn, even though we're not working yet, kind of how there are different departments and that we should be able to communicate effectively throughout.
And then
Okay,
I would
so
also just like
oh,
to add on to kind of, oh, yeah, so I would like to add on to kind of what Aarav was saying before about finding sponsors. I think for anyone in the audience who wants to start their own robotics team with some friends or with a teacher, anyone, I think a really important aspect is to reach out to local organizations. A lot of people might think that like, oh, if I reach out to like major tech companies such as Apple or Microsoft, they might give me a lot of money. But what most likely is going to happen is they won't respond to your emails. So the first thing to do is to reach out to a lot of local companies, even if they're not like related to technology. In my team in particular, we have I think like three medical companies that sponsor our team and provide us with the different funds that we need for the season. And that's something that's very important to understand is the fact that you don't need to go for these big name companies, and especially the judges especially will understand that too because they're not looking for like tens like a lot of sponsors. They're looking for some sponsors that they might not have heard of before because it shows that you care about your community and your community cares about you, and that's all what FIRST is about.
yeah, so as you mentioned, where you're talking about like your if people in the audience want to make their own first team. So I'm assuming that you would recommend other like middle schoolers or high schoolers or even younger to like sort of delve into the world of robotics. So could you explain a little bit how or why you would encourage people to join first and what impact you think that could have on people, Tushar?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it really encourages people to kind of network themselves more. Something that's really important about First is connecting with other teams in your area and having scrimmages with them. And I know there's a lot of people today with the advancements in technology that are trying to incorporate their love for engineering with their love with computer science. And for me, that is another aspect of what I really wanted to do when getting into First. And this is like a really great activity to pursue when you want to combine those two aspects. And then also, as I was saying, networking, like a really important thing for when you grow up is kind of connecting with others, even if you don't know them. So starting off at competition, you're gonna, at least for FTC and FRC, you're gonna have alliance partners, and you're gonna have to talk with them and strategize with them in order to get the wins in like the certain rounds that you have in the matches that you have. So I think that those are two aspects of why individuals should like make an FTC team or an FRC team or even just delve into the first world because you can make connections with a lot of other people who have similar similar like they like similar things. Yeah.
And Suri, what about you? Do you think that other people should be starting for FIRST organizations or even just other robotics competitions, and what were their impacts, would you believe?
I definitely think it's beneficial to start a team if you're interested because I started a team with a few friends, so I guess it really just helps to kind of put yourself out there. It definitely teaches you a lot about time management, and then also you learn a lot about technical skills. So even if you're thinking of starting small, like with 4 or 5 people, it definitely helps a lot. I know when my first team started, we worked out of someone's living room, and since there were so few of us on the team, all of us had to do a little bit of everything, and it kind of helped me be really well rounded. So I had to learn. So now I do business and stuff, but now, back then I had to learn a bit of CAD and then programming, and building and stuff too. So I think it definitely helps not just to be well-rounded technically when you start a team, but also, like Tushar and Aarav mentioned, a lot of networking happening and learning how to be better at public speaking. Is definitely a benefit at first. So I think if you are considering to start a team, definitely reach out to maybe teachers or mentors that might be able to help you because I think FIRST is a really awesome program to do that with.
And I would just like to put a disclaimer out there for those who are like thinking of making a team. It is not a cheap thing to do. Even if you're doing First Lego League, the expenses, like as we said, we need sponsors. For First Lego League, you don't need sponsors, but buying the Legos and buying like all the different like robotic parts that Lego produces is going to be expensive. And then also, in addition to that, don't try to look for success in your first year. On my team, we did make it to the state qualifier competition, but we did not do that great. But our team obviously evolved as time progressed, and just don't have any like major expectations for your first year in robotics. And if you do that, you will have great outcomes in future years.
Okay, well, thank you all three of you for sharing like your experiences in robotics and just telling us about FIRST because for somebody who doesn't really have a lot of access to robotics, I've like didn't really know what was available for like high school and middle school students. So this really did explain a lot. So thank you so much for your time.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Suhani, for giving us this platform to share.
Yeah, thank you, as everyone said, for having us here today and giving us the chance to share our experiences with others.
Thank you so much to our guests. Thank you, Suhani, for hosting. And with that, thank you to our listeners, and we will catch you next week with a new episode.